Viewers, in a breaking news, a National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met with US's outgoing National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in New Delhi today with discussions on enhancing bilateral, regional security and global cooperations. This comes after the outgoing US NSA Jake Sullivan also came to India for his last round of talks earlier today, in the morning, in fact. And now the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, who he had originally come to meet US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, has met Doval in New Delhi. The discussions range on enhancing the bilateral relations between India and the US. Regional and security and global cooperation are also at top of the agenda of what can be seen as the last talks of the outgoing US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan with India's Ajit Doval. Now also, it has been reported that all the conversations between India and the US and all the bilaterals which are left hanging and are ongoing will be concluded during the key meeting happening in the national capital today. Earlier today, the visuals that you can see on the right side of your screen, earlier today, the outgoing US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, also being joined by our senior executive editor Abhishek Kapoor to get us more on the story. Abhishek, now that the outgoing US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has met Ajit Doval for the last time, what can be expected out of this meeting? Tell us more about this. Abhishek.
Well, you see, there are some big announcements that Jake Sullivan has made. The biggest one of which is that the United States is removing all impediments on operationalization of the India-US civil nuclear deal, which was signed back in 2008, but somehow it never became operational in terms of action on the ground, in terms of its benefits of industrial cooperation and nuclear energy supplies on the ground. And Jake Sullivan there, speaking at the IIT Delhi, made that big announcement where he said that the U.S. is finalizing regulation that prevented, finalizing removal of the regulation which prevented civil nuclear cooperation. Those regulations would go, and that formal paperwork is being put in place in its final stages. That was a significant announcement insofar as the India-U.S. partnership is concerned that Jake Sullivan made. Apart from that, of course, in that address, he mentioned how China was weaponizing interdependencies and that it was time to shift away from China so that it could not indulge in activities like cyber espionage and sabotage of supply chains, or using its grip over supply chains to sabotage international supplies or disrupt them. And that's another big announcement or a statement made by the outgoing U.S. National Security Advisor. I think by way of optics and then diplomacy, optics are very important. United States has made an important point insofar as their priorities are concerned by making New Delhi the last foreign visit and pit stop for Jake Sullivan, the U.S. NSA, just ahead of the taking over of the U.S. government by the incoming Trump administration. So I think he has met the External Affairs Minister earlier. He has met the National Security Advisor, where they had a structured dialogue on the initiative on critical and emerging technologies. In fact, in the context of that, Jake Sullivan mentioned how increasingly you would see India taking the place of key supplier of cutting-edge technology, not just between India and U.S., but to the rest of the world. Also, an example of which he gave was that in the next few years, 1/4 of all the iPhones made in the world would be made in India. But that's just one of the examples. The tremendous amount of cooperation that's happening in quantum computing, in artificial intelligence,
right.
in semiconductor production. I think a very important statement there being made by Jake Sullivan and the outgoing Biden administration by making New Delhi his last visit of the administration.
Right. Right, you're right, Abhishek. And we're also getting in a statement from the outgoing US National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, who has spoken on the India-US bilateral relations. Listen in.
First, we started by transforming our bilateral technology partnership. When President Biden came to office, he knew that Make in India and Made in America are not incompatible concepts. In fact, they are complementary. And that's why in 2022, as you've heard, our administration launched the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies with India, ICET. Now, as Ambassador Garcetti laid out, this is not just something that springs into existence by osmosis or by some, magical abstract creation. It's through people. And people in senior positions in government, and people throughout the government, and then throughout the scientific community, the private sector, and beyond. But one person in particular that I would like to recognize is my counterpart, the Indian National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, because it was in part his vision that technology, and particularly advanced technologies of the future, would be a propellant for the U.S.-India relationship in a way that could take our two countries forward, advance our respective interests, protect our respective values, and build a better world for everybody.